China is threatening war with Japan if it protects Taiwan. But one tiny island might allow the US and Japan to keep the PLA at bay. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. It's that time of year again, when we end up funneling money into China's military by buying made-in-China junk as Christmas presents. This year, don't. I'm putting together the first ever unmade-in-China Christmas shopping catalog. It'll be full of products made in the USA and other friendly countries that are also standing up to the CCP. This catalog is for you and everyone you know, so you can use the magic of consumerism for good this Christmas. To fund this shopping catalog, I need your help. Join Operation Take Back Christmas on my GiveSendGo page. Become a revolutionary retail shopper, an anti-big tech patriot, or a soldier in the American Liberation Army to get exclusive benefits. And most importantly, you'll be part of the work we do at China Uncensored to stand up to the CCP. So click below. And now, on with today's episode. So, the Chinese Communist Party is just a teensy bit sensitive when it comes to Taiwan. So much so that after Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi Sinai implied that Japan's military would get involved if China attacked Taiwan, the Chinese consul-general in Osaka threatened to cut off her head. And one state media outlet published an op-ed calling for nuclear strikes on Japan. Geez, touchy. But there's a reason for this reaction, and unlike the CCP's blow-up over Takaichi's comments, it's very small. I present to you Yonaguni. It's a little-known Japanese island right near Taiwan, and it could make a surprising amount of difference in a war over Taiwan. What's more, both Japan and the US seem to be fully aware of this because they are building it up. Just a few days ago, Japan deployed medium-range missiles to the island. The missiles being deployed are Type 03 Chusam surface-to-air missiles, which are capable of tracking up to 100 targets at the same time and can also hit 12 targets simultaneously. It's like Krillin's scattering bullet blast in Dragon Ball Z, only in real life, and with a chance of actually winning a fight since it's not being fired by Krillin. On top of that, they can reach an altitude of over 6 miles high and hit targets about 31 miles away. Each system has 6 missiles, and they can travel up to Mach 2.5. This would leave Chinese cruise missiles, jets, and helicopters pretty vulnerable to attack. So they're a heck of a deterrent. They're like a missile version of a porcupine. Also, Missile Porcupine is the coolest Mega Man X-boss that doesn't exist, but should. At a military drill in Utah 10 years ago, the tests of one advanced version of the system were so successful that 100% of targets engaged by the system was destroyed. And did I mention just how close Yonaguni is to Taiwan? Of course, this has the CCP once again fuming, with one Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman telling reporters that right-wing forces in Japan are leading Japan and the region towards disaster. In reality, though, these missiles are probably preventing a disaster. As Japan's defense minister put it, today Japan faces the most challenging and severe security situation since the end of World War II. The deployment could help reduce the likelihood of an armed attack on our country. The idea that this will heighten regional tensions is inaccurate. Yeah, I mean, it's not like a Chinese state-run media outlet has encouraged the use of nuclear weapons against Japan or anything. But the missile deployment is just part of a major Japanese military overhaul, which is taking into account the CCP's ever-increasing aggression, as well as securing Taiwan. Which is crazy because China has been so subtle about those ambitions. In any war over Taiwan, China would likely attempt at some point to launch waves of missiles at Japanese targets and US bases in Japan, including in Okinawa, which is why Japan has been strengthening defenses on Yonaguni and other nearby islands even before this latest spat. For example, last year, Japan's Ground Self-Defense Force, or JGSDF, which, if allowed, is an acronym that would win you any game of Scrabble, formally activated its Amphibious Rapid Deployment Brigade's 3rd Regiment, which is meant to defend its southwestern islands near Taiwan. And on top of that, last year Tokyo also placed a JGSDF electronic warfare unit on Yonaguni Island and a surface-to-surface missile unit on Okinawa. In fact, this kind of buildup has been happening for years in the areas around Yonaguni, not least because Russian and Chinese joint drills have been happening near Japan's waters and airspace, and PLAN ships like the Liaoning and Shandong aircraft carriers have been operating particularly close to Yonaguni and other Japanese islands near Taiwan. In fact, just last week, Japan had to scramble fighter jets after a Chinese drone was detected near Yonaguni. Ah yes, another aerial game of, I'm not touching you. I could be armed with missiles, but for now, I'm not touching you. But Japan isn't alone in this kind of prep work. Together, the US and Japan have held evacuation drills for these islands. I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but if your neighbors coordinate evacuation drills together, you're the reason nobody likes HOAs, you power-tripping psycho. The US Marines appear to be making their own preparations for an outpost at Yonaguni. Over the last 2 months, the Marine Corps has apparently been shuttling equipment to and from the island's port of Kubura. A lot of these shipments had to do with preparations for the joint Resolute Dragon 2025 exercises between the US and Japan, including shipping containers, refrigeration, and water, along with materials for planned humanitarian response efforts. But the Marine Corps also let slip that they put in an aircraft refueling point at Yonaguni during a joint exercise late last month. The Forwarding, Arming, and Refueling Point, or FARP, which I can't imagine anyone saying without giggling, was put together by units from the 1st Marine Air Wing, and Marine Corps officials noted that this was the first time such a hub was ever set up on the island. So what does this all mean for China and its plans to attack Taiwan? Well, given US involvement and a huge China hawking charge in Tokyo, hopefully it means they'll think twice before doing it. Or at least think once, since they seem to be exclusively emotional and not at all logical. After all, China has a lot of problems of its own, like a crumbling economy and a graying population. But if Xi Jinping just can't resist the temptation, the invasion will probably be a lot more painful than he'd like, or that he planned for. A sustained presence of American Marines on Yonaguni means that the PLAN would find it much more difficult to take Taiwan, and a lot harder, if not impossible, to access the Pacific beyond Taiwan. And that's not even counting Japan's remilitarization. The thing is, the Chinese Communist Party was probably counting on Japan to back down, like other countries have, in order to preserve economic ties. But they did the craziest, most unexpected thing imaginable. Realize that being business partners with a nation that despises them and encourages violence against them isn't the brightest idea. So there's a new sheriff in town, as the saying goes, and the CCP has done too much for years to antagonize Japan for it to back down now so easily. Between that and Takeichi's friendship with President Trump, Xi might be overstepping his boundaries, which would be the first time ever China's recognized another country's boundaries. So remember, don't support China's military. Buy American this Christmas. Support Operation Take Back Christmas? Click below. I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.